So apparently I'm a better actor than I give myself credit for. I thought that it would be pretty obvious that the video yesterday was an April Fool's video, and I pinned the comments that were saying that it was an April Fool's joke in the comment sections, and I gave those comments hearts. So I thought for sure that people would think it was a April Fool's joke, but a lot of people just saw the thumbnail, didn't see the words April Fool's, and went, oh damn, theoretically straight up is Biden boy now. No. No! No, April Fool's can't, hold on. Is it okay? Can I retract that now? Is it too late? I'm still Bernie. It's still Bernie. And I have to talk about this a little bit more. Apparently some people still think that we all ought to just roll over and vote blue no matter who at this point. And if a person thinks that, bless their little soul, bless their little heart, but that is a person who probably isn't going to get much from my channel. It's like, yo, you're the kind of normie that we talk about over here. I talk about, like, how do we produce normies of the future that will be, post-capitalist and not these neoliberal subjectivities. That's in my, hour-long video essay that just went up. I talk about that kind of thing because the normies that we're dealing with right now are, basically a lost cause. A lot of them, most of them. I mean, they just accept them the way they are. And I guess for me, it's like, look forward to the future. Because if you think vote blue no matter who is a good thing, like a good meme, or you take it seriously as a talking point or a hashtag, I guess, then your conception of politics is about as superficial as it could possibly fucking be. And it's like, hey, let's go, if you're in my personal life, if you know me personally and you hear me saying these things online and that's offensive to you, it's offensive to us to hear vote blue no matter who constantly throughout a primary season, okay? All right? Because we got blamed for Hillary's loss last time. It was like, oh, Russians and Bernie bros. That's why Hillary lost. It was her turn, but she didn't win. And it's like, no. Don't fucking rewrite history on us. We know exactly what happened. Hillary was the most unpopular candidate. And the Democratic establishment chose her because it was in debt to her, because there was fraud. Everyone's like, oh, but her emails. That's the hashtag now. Oh, but her emails. They show pictures of the nuked world and people dead, and then they do hashtag, but the emails. And it's like, oh, it's funny, huh? But, it's a lot more than the emails, which was also, a real actual scandal. She actually broke the law. And every one of the senators, every person in office who sets up private servers, who pays people to come install private servers so they can do public business off the books from their houses, is someone who probably needs to be investigated further. And anyway, every person who does this is implicated. It's not just Hillary. But anyway, that's nothing compared to the DNC fraud, and the fact that all these main players at the DNC literally owed Hillary favors, not just political favors, but actual she loaned them money or she helped them launder money. This stuff is the lawsuits are still ongoing. Some of the lawsuits were dropped because Bernie dropped some of them to get deals he wanted passed. Like, for instance, now making it so that super delegates or unpledged delegates, which is to say when millionaires buy out the political process and are then able to trump 10,000 regular delegates with their single vote, Bernie made it through his compromise and bargaining with the DNC. He made it so that they only get to, superdelegates only have a say if there's a brokered convention, if there's not a candidate who has over 51% of the votes. Okay, so that was a successful thing on Bernie's part, and it's why he did 38 rallies for Hillary to Hillary's 9 that she did for Obama. And let's remember that more people went from Hillary to McCain instead of Obama than from Bernie to Trump, okay? And I can't think of a reason beyond racism to go from Hillary to McCain instead of Obama, all right? I can't think of a reason beyond racism for that, but I can definitely think of a reason that people would go from Bernie to Trump that isn't racism. Yes, lots of racists love Trump, but there's other reasons too. Trade, the way he was speaking, he was better on trade. Now, he didn't have the track record. He's a two-faced bullshit liar, and he's constantly saying one thing out the one side of his mouth and saying something else out the other side of his mouth. And so, saying that Trump was better on trade, yeah, well, sometimes when he was talking, he said something that was better than other times when he contradicted that. So it's really not a lot to go off of. But point being, I can think of a lot of reasons that a lot of people went that direction. But the thing is fewer people went that direction than went from Hillary to McCain. And people are like, oh, but McCain is nice. No, McCain was still a racist piece of shit. God. Everyone's like, oh, don't speak ill of the dead. Yeah, he's a war criminal piece of shit. Fuck you. God. Okay. And if the nice people in my life, who are feeling really offended right now. Well, I'm offended too. That's politics. Don't talk politics with your family. Don't talk politics with your friends. If you're so sensitive that when someone actually comes out with the real opinions and they give fucking reasons to back up those opinions, you're going to have your little, oh no, you're mean. Like, look, we can get coffee and talk about how much we love cats and dogs and talk about, child rearing and we can talk about epistemology or something not related directly to politics. But when we're talking about politics, this is life and death for people. This isn't a joke. This isn't a beauty pageant. And so the thing that we get, all right, listen, the constant, oh, well, you better just vote blue no matter who. Yeah, well, fucking Biden ain't blue. Biden's a conservative Republican. Do you not have, he's a liar. He's worse. He's a worse liar than Trump, because Trump would never say that he was literally that he went to jail fighting alongside Nelson Mandela, or say that Trump never said that he got into politics because of civil rights, because of marches and sit-ins that he was a part of, which is a lie. Biden never did that. Those are all lies, documented lies. Okay. And Trump's a liar, and Trump's a piece of shit, and we should all hate Trump, absolutely. But Trump's a bullshit liar. Biden's a fucking politician liar. It's a worse kind of liar, because he's like, you have to vote for me. To not vote for me is racist, because I've deceived a certain block of black boomers, and therefore, if you don't vote for me, then you're racist, while the whole time ignoring, progressive and radical black voters everywhere and non-voters everywhere, erasing them all the time, and telling them that you have to vote for me, a fucking certified racist, and if you don't, then you're the real racist because you're voting for Trump. That is ridiculous. Okay, and yeah, I just vote blue no matter. Okay, so I said a while ago that I was vote blue no matter who, and I have to change my position. I've had to think about it. So consistency is important, and so I'm sorry, but I say integrity is more important than consistency. Okay, and integrity comes first, consistency comes second. And when it comes to integrity, you can change your priorities. You can have a realization that this one priority that was lower than this other one actually needs to be raised up higher than that other one. And, I've learned things. I've learned some stuff that changes the game for me now. I'm thinking different than I was. And then you explain why it's different. And then that's how you maintain integrity, even though in terms of consistency at a superficial level, you're having to change your position on something. So for very superficial, it looks like a complete flip-flop, but it's not a flip-flop if it has follow through and an explanation, okay? And the explanation is, why did things change? And the follow through is, see, this is why shit changed. So, you know, with Elizabeth Warren, for instance, you know, used to be a Republican, then comes along, LARPs as a progressive for a couple of years to ride the Bernie hype train, then backstabs him last minute, won't even endorse, okay? So we you know, it's like, okay, well, she might as well still be a Republican. If you don't believe that, that's a whole other video. Straight up, I'm not gonna be able to launch into it right now. But my point is that I always am like open to trusting that someone's changed if they give an explanation. And then they want to, like, you know, when we're talking about public officials whose votes are always going to be on matters of life and death for people, okay, when it's something like Medicare for all, which is, you know, going to save 64,000 people on average every year, while also taking an immense burden of stress at the most stressful points in people's lives off of millions of people, while also removing an entire layer of unnecessary parasitic bureaucracy that is basically meant to work as a sort of eugenics against the poor, as a sort of way of punishing and killing the poor, which is privatized healthcare. If someone like Elizabeth Warren or Pete Buttigieg or Andrew Yang says they're for it, but then turns around and endorses Biden, then my basic point is the whole thing about, oh, well, they were this way, now they've changed, and now we should be able to trust them. Well, I was willing to, but now I'm not, because they did that. That's the follow through that I'm talking about. So anyway, taking it back to this idea, I'm not trying to burn bridges with the people in my life who are normies that, like, you know, say vote blue no matter who. I hope they never watch my videos. I really do. Because those people, I'm not trying to change their minds. This channel is more of like a let's strategize here on the left about a new left, a left that would actually be able to move into a post-capitalist and more egalitarian phase of existence. And let's study the theory, the ideas, the concepts, the frameworks that we're in, and developing new ones that we can use to dismantle old ones. Also, you know, the parsing through old ideas, seeing what's good there, and trying to, you know, throw out what's not without losing what's good. Like the whole thing. Like, that's philosophy and theory. I love it. And that's what we're doing here. And this is more of like a hey, you want to change the world? Well, you need theory, so let's do that here. This isn't like a channel directed at normies. It's more of like a channel directed at the left that's saying, hey, how should we be thinking about normies? So if you haven't seen my new video essay, go watch it. But I'm going to close this up by just saying that in terms of the whole integrity and consistency thing, you know, I said a couple months ago, I'm going to vote blue no matter who, but, you know, I'm Bernie right now. And now, and you know, and I was for Bernie in 2016, and I experienced what they did to us then. But I was still saying that because, you know, it just seemed like, you know, I just wanted to stop Trump. But here's the thing. Trump is not going to win or lose because of me. I have no faith in my vote changing anything unless it is for a candidate who is a populist, who is against the two parties. And although Bernie is currently working from within the Democratic Party because there's more overlap there in terms of values, not necessarily the actual mode, but there's definitely overlap in terms of values, I thought, you know, hey, I'm for him. Because basically, Democratic egalitarian, working class populism, the real kind of populism, is exactly what the Democratic and Republican parties have been built to suppress. Okay, and I just read this essay by Judith Stein, and I forget the name of it, but it's got Booker T. Washington in the title of the essay, and it's about, I think it's called Booker T. Washington and Others, but it's basically about the way that historians on Black history and race theory have been overly simplistic, way overly simplistic about a lot of the key historical moments, and that disenfranchisement came after the violent suppression of radical Black and working class unification, and huge pushes in coalition building towards a different mode than what the Democrats or the Republicans ended up doing. And that the Democrats and Republicans, like, overall, like, we're like this divide between planters and industrialists, right? There was no capitalism in the South. That was just straight up like slavery. The planters, like, this is feudalism, right? Whereas, you know, you have these industrialists in the North, and there were no good guys or bad guys when we're talking about these ruling class planters versus these ruling class industrialists. But there were always working class people who were not fucking racist, who were against slavery, and also had material shared interests with people no matter what their color, based on, hey, these assholes are exploiting us. These assholes built this whole system to create us as a class to perpetually live at the edge of poverty and basically the perpetual blackmail of homelessness and an early death. And we don't have to tolerate it. We can work together and unify. And the Democrats and Republicans have, through their various historical moments, done everything they can to suppress that populism, to suppress that unification, and to have their own two versions of racism. They have their own versions of racism, but it's all fucking racism. And so when someone's all vote blue no matter who, because the alternative is racist, I'm just like, you know what? Y'all need to know that that doesn't work anymore. That that's not ever gonna work. That this is a tactic. Yeah, you all, the Democrats are basically happy being the victims on the right side of history. They're like, we'll be victims we'll be right and we'll die on the right side of history, but we'll lose. We'll perpetually lose because we're basically serving the same corporate overlords, and it's our job to basically be correct in the things we say, but never actually follow through and always compromise, quote unquote, pragmatically or practically, but it's not practical, it's not pragmatic, it's just constant capitulation and moving further right, when right in this sense means capitalist empire, unending war, and the interests of the lenders, the employers, and the landlords, as opposed to the unified interests of the borrowers, of the renters, of the workers. And so as a class, we need our own working party. And if we don't get it anytime soon, I don't care. I'm putting my energy elsewhere. It ain't going to Biden. Biden can fuck off, okay? Biden is a piece of shit. Biden is actually worse than Trump, if you think about it. And the thing is, when I was saying I was vote blue no matter who, I hadn't thought this through yet. I hadn't read up on Biden enough yet. I knew that Biden was garbage, but I didn't know how garbage Biden was. I didn't know Biden was someone that Obama chose to kind of win the part of the party that would have been disenfranchised by a black president. Like, Biden was the forced busing, and now he's like, forced healthcare, like, rhetoric. Biden was saying that Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Jesse Jackson were dividers, and that they didn't believe in coalition building merely because they believed in unifying the interests of the poor with the interests of people of color. Okay, so what we're talking about here is is a man who said that in the time that that they were living under threat, and that they were, that it was probably the most dangerous time for them to be speaking as the thought leaders. Biden was against them, but then later says, "Oh, they're what got me into politics, and I love them." Yeah, well, there's only one of them alive still, and that's Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he did not endorse you. He endorsed Bernie Sanders. So yeah, deal with that. But worse, well, I don't know if it's worse, beyond the lies about civil rights and all of the racism, we've got the sexual harassment stuff, which is like, okay, anybody can pull the, oh, well, you're in public office, and so, this is ultimately going to happen, blah, 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 blah. No, like 7 different reported cases of sexual harassment. Tara Reid is only a recent one. And then those are just the ones that have come out so far. A lot more come out after the primaries and during the election. And so we see a pattern emerging, and it's one that is going to tank his campaign, even if the cognitive decline doesn't. And the cognitive decline, or maybe he's just drinking whiskey all the time, but he's fucking Sleepy Joe Biden is a great nickname. It really is, because he's falling asleep on camera half the time. Like, they must have pumped him up on some Adderall before that debate with Bernie, the last one, which is really disappointing, and we were all very let down because we thought Biden would fall asleep up there. But generally speaking, he's falling asleep. He's checking his notes. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's deferring. He's not being presidential. But the sexual assault allegations aren't just hearsay either, which would already be something that would have to be taken into consideration. But then there's the fact that we have tons of video of him getting all handsy and sniffy and kissy on people that are not asking for it, that did not consent to it, that are usually children, but also like other people's partners, and it's disgusting and creepy and weird. He's got no sense of boundaries, and he thinks that he owns everybody else's bodies, okay? And then there's the Iraq War, there's the war on drugs, there's the getting tough on crime in the 90s and his loud advocacy for these things, trying to put other senators to shame for not putting enough violent drug offenders behind bars. And it's like, well, actually, the drug war was already pretty bad, Joe, and you made it worse. Instead of focusing on the real problems, you focused on the effects, which is so Democrat. It's so Democrat to focus on the effects. Oh, we don't like this symptom. Oh, we better fight the symptom instead of actually looking to what's creating the symptom in the first place. So fuck you, Joe Biden, and fuck vote blue no matter who, and fuck gaslighting us. It's not going to work, and I'm going to go put my organizing into real organizations, and that actually will build to something that when the Democratic Party fails again, can step in to replace it, or hey, it's not too late for Bernie. There's still a chance for Bernie. We don't know what cards there are to play still, but I mean, he's in a sense for this election cycle the last hope. But something weird could happen. But they're probably going to replace Biden with Cuomo or some crap, which is actually illegal. But I mean, the weirdest part is that they could play the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, actually has rules that allow for, in cases of global pandemic or whatever, in extreme emergencies, they could basically just throw off the whole democratic process and they get to handpick somebody. And we know they're not going to pick Bernie. But the thing is that the primaries are all super contested. All right, right now there are a ton votes that have not been counted. We've got bags full of thumb drives that haven't been counted. We've got calls for recall, places where there was really shicey stuff happening. We've got polling machines and stations that were wrongly wrong addresses put up on the internet. We've got ones where the lines were over 5 hours. We've got ones where they closed the day of or the day before. We've got all of these states that are key, and so you know, Biden's only leading by a few hundred, and those few hundred could easily be beaten, given those recalls, given the lawsuits that probably need to go through. So there's a lot of stuff that's contested right now, and my biggest hope, obviously, is that Bernie doesn't give up, or doesn't, you know, he decided to back Hillary and get her the popular vote, even though she backstabbed him later, and it was a totally thankless thing. Because, you know, he is against Trump on the one hand, and he needed some favors, like making it so superdelegates don't suppress populism as much as they were, which, you know, was successful, and it also masked off how vile and backstabbing Hillary can even be, like coming out with this documentary during the primary season to knife him when he was the front runner at that time. So, you know, you know, he took the high road, she took the low road. It's blatantly obvious, and you know, there's been a lot of these mask off moments that have revealed how much politics is just this game to a lot of people, and how a lot of the things that they say, that they try to use to try to get you to go for their candidate, are very superficial, very just, they're not rooted in truth or justice. They're basically they're just games. I don't really understand, but this is the politics of red versus blue. This is my team versus you. That's that, and it's ridiculous. It's not really contending with politics in a more philosophical manner, and that obviously infuriates me. So, all right, vote blue no matter who. Fuck you. And to anybody who thought that video was serious, well, I mean, thank you. I guess that just means that I'm a better actor than I thought. But yeah, April Fools. I did not vote for. I would not vote for. I would never say, oh, now I'm a Biden boy, while Bernie's still in the race. I mean, I could see being like, you know what, I'm gonna bite my lip, I'm gonna bite my tongue, I'm gonna do, you know, hold my nose and go for the lesser two evils, blah, blah, blah. But the idea that that I would play into all of these people, whether they're anarchists who never wanted to be involved with electoral stuff at all, or whether they're, you know, Democrats who love to vote, and they're the ones who are, you know, basically complicit with the establishment. Those people on both sides are all just like, well, it looks like Bernie's done. Yeah, well, Bernie's still doing shit. So until Bernie says it's over, it's not over. And in the meantime, get involved with the DSA, get involved with the IWW, get involved with new emerging organizations, Foods Not Bombs, you know, whatever, you know, just get involved with stuff that isn't party bound. You know, I've never been a party bound loyal person. I'm an independent, and I assume that most people who follow this content consider themselves independents as well. So let's be thinking about that, and let's move forward. Not blue no matter who, because blue is not always blue. Peace.